From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
So my name is Al Banks, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Library Services, and so I'd like to welcome you to the Library of Congress. On behalf of the Librarian of Congress, Dr. Carla Hayton, and our entire team, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for choosing today's Gold Star Legacy Panel discussion. The Veterans History Project is one of the most popular projects at the Library of Congress and is considered one of the largest oral history projects in the country. Through a congressional mandate to collect, preserve, and make accessible the memories of our nation's veterans, we hear directly from them what they saw, felt, and heard, the human experience of military service. These firsthand narratives reinforce the realities of their selfless service so that we all better understand and appreciate them. When the Gold Star Families Voices Act of 2016 amended the Veterans History Project legislation, its scope expanded to include oral histories from immediate family members of the armed forces who became missing in action or who died as a result of their wartime service. This revision reinforces our dedication to making sure that all military veterans are not forgotten, but instead are heard, appreciated, and remembered with a lasting, living legacy. Through our work with the Gold Star individuals and organizations, some of whom are here today, we are able to demonstrate to these families and the American people that the legacy of these heroes is in the memory of a grateful nation. This Sunday marks Gold Star Mothers and Families Day, which is observed in the U.S. on the last Sunday of September each year. We are pleased to commemorate this day with this landmark panel discussion. In a few moments, you will hear from the leaders of Gold Star organizations and individuals who will explore ways that families, organizations, and communities are currently working to honor and preserve the legacy of our fallen members, of our service members. They will also highlight ways in which we all can support families of the fallen and ensure their loved ones are honored and remembered in a suitable way. At this time, I'm delighted to introduce today's Gold Star Legacy Panel moderator, Emmy Award-winning news correspondent, Mr. Mort Deane. As a correspondent for CBS News 20 years ago, and with ABC for 14 years, his many assignments included the U.S. space program, political campaigns, and the Vietnam War. Putting himself in harm's way, Mr. Deane reported on the invasion of Grenada, the Falklands War, and Cuba from the early days of the Castro regime through the present. He reported on Iran during the hostage crisis, from Somalia during the U.S. intervention, the turmoil in Israel and the Palestinian territory, and the military action in Kosovo involving U.S. Marines. He covered Saddam Hussein's Iraq, the NATO air attacks in Belgrade, the terror attack on the USS Cole in Yemen, the bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi, and the U.S. retaliation in the Sudan, as well as the first terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center in 1993. With his more recent endeavors, Mr. Deane has written, directed, and produced the PBS documentary, American Medevac. The documentary tells the story of a harrowing medevac mission to rescue 3 wounded soldiers from enemy fire in a rice paddy. Mr. Deane long wondered what had become of the medevac crew and the bloodied men who were airlifted to safety on that day in 1971. American Medevac is a story of their reunion more than 40 years later. It is my pleasure to welcome and introduce Mr. Mort Deane.
That was so long, that introduction, that you probably think I wrote it, but I had nothing to do with it. And I have to say, given the current attitude among some people, including the Commander-in-Chief, about reporters, I think it's very gutsy of you all to have me here today. And if any of you are still on active duty, I wonder what this is going to mean to you and your future. I'm very honored to be here and to be in your company, and thank you, Library of Congress, for caring about America, for caring about Gold Star families, and thank you, New Day USA, for caring about America and caring about Gold Star families. Anyone who knows a Gold Star family is well aware that Gold Star mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters, Gold Star families often wear a Gold Star, but they also carry a Gold Star in their hearts. And I believe it's the duty of all Americans to reach into those hearts, to touch those Gold Stars, to embrace them with our love and respect, and to polish them up a little bit and make them a little less burdensome to carry, and show that we too, the civilians, care, that we too will never, ever forget. That's why I'm here, and that's why New Day USA is here and has brought many of us together today. It's why others of you are here also, to say to those who carry a Gold Star in their hearts that you are not alone today, and you will never be alone, that America truly cares about you. We're going to hear more about that from our panel in just a moment, about what they and their organizations are doing for Gold Star families and what we and our government needs to do. I was at an event, a meeting in Washington just a couple of weeks ago, and the discussion did get around to Gold Star families. It was a meeting of the Vietnam War Commemoration Commission Steering Committee. And we were talking about Gold Stars and families and the activities that are taking place in Washington this coming weekend. And an old soldier, a former, current Medal of Honor recipient, said that he was at a Gold Star family event just a couple of years ago here in Washington. And he raised the question, he said, how many members of Congress are out there? Nobody. How many members of a congressional office are out there? Nobody. And he turned to the crowd the other day and said, this is one of the jobs we have to do, to convince people in the highest offices of our country that there are people out there who deserve the government's care and respect and honor. So let me introduce the people on the panel. Janine Melton, U.S. Army veteran, 2 tours in Iraq, and a Gold Star sister. What does the term Gold Star mean to you?
When I think of the term Gold Star, to me it symbolizes sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice that our fallen heroes made to preserve our freedoms. So every time I look at the Gold Star, it reminds me that freedom is not free. There is a fallen hero that made the ultimate sacrifice, and then there is a family that's associated with every single star. So when you see the service flag hanging in a window or a magnet on the back of somebody's car, there's a story behind every star, a story of pain, a story of sacrifice, and a story ultimately of love, and we should never forget that.
Yeah, my understanding is, and what I sense is that when you mention Gold Star to too many people, they don't know what you're talking about. It's not the way it was when I was a kid growing up, just after World War II, when you would go through the neighborhood and see Gold Stars hanging in the windows of so many families. Have you found that true?
Yes, I was actually amazed. Coming from active duty prior to the passing of my brother, I did not know. And there were actually some chaplains that I had met when I was on active duty and separated that did not know. So right now, and I find it to be my personal mission to make people aware of that, to let them know about the sacrifice associated with that. Even currently, I'm a civil servant working with the Department of Veteran Affairs, and they've been really trying to do more with initiatives with veterans and even talking about Gold Star families. but really a lot of people do not know, which is why I'm glad we have platforms like this to promote awareness and make people aware of our family's sacrifices and our heroes.
Becky Christmas is president of the American Gold Star Mothers, Inc. And I read something about when you were named president, and you said in your thank you speech, "We are mothers on a mission." What is your mission?
The mission of American Gold Star Mothers Incorporated is to serve and support veterans and the families of the fallen and our active military. We are a veteran service organization, 90 years old. It was started in 1928 by a Gold Star mother who lost her son in World War I. And that is our mission. And so our theme this year is Mothers on a Mission, a Powerful Force, because we do have a voice that people will listen to, and it's important because we can speak for some of our veterans that aren't able to, and some of our families that aren't able to, and that is what we do to take our grief, serve in a positive way, because grief held within can be destructive. So we learned that, and we feel that service is our mission.
And Becky, you really know what you're talking about. Your son served in Iraq.
Yes.
Tell us about him.
My son was Captain Todd Christmas. Todd was very proud to serve in the Army. That was all he ever wanted to do, and he hoped to have a long career. He was deployed to Iraq in 2003, and he was the recipient of a Bronze Star. He was a ranch boy from New Mexico who could be quite innovative with things that maybe they didn't have or things they needed to do, and he was determined to do those kinds of things that needed to be done to help with his mission. So he returned in early 2004 from Iraq and was chosen to be an aide to General Ben Allen at Fort Hood, Texas. And unfortunately, the Monday after Thanksgiving, there were 7 on a helicopter, including General Allen and Colonel Jim Moore, and they hit a communication tower outside of Fort Hood in heavy fog, and all perished. But we were blessed to have a close relationship with our son, and he loved his job. He told me every day when he got up to go to work, he loved what he was doing.
Thank you, Becky. General William Caldwell. To mention where General Caldwell has been during a long and illustrious career in the U.S. military would take probably the rest of this afternoon, and we'd have to serve drinks this evening and just continue. Not a bad idea, by the way. Currently, he's the president of Georgia Military Prep College. He has helped facilitate the awarding of New Day USA scholarships to children of Gold Star families and children of disabled veterans. General, how important is it for a family to learn, as so many of your students have learned from having received scholarships from New Day USA, how important is it for them to know that there are people out there that they don't even know who really care about who they are and what they've been through?
Well, Mort, thanks. I'm glad we didn't go through my history. I wasn't sure if you're just saying I'm older than you or not, though. I do want to say it really is important for us to remember. Everybody up here will tell you that we don't want to ever forget. I feel very blessed today that I've been able to be a part of a life of a young lady there, Caroline Wood, who lost her father. And she's at our school. She's attending there. We've got some other kids who are also Gold Star family children that are at our school. And we're incredibly blessed in our ability to remember them, that we hold a ceremony every 9/11. And during that ceremony, we lay a wreath. And it's done in remembrance of those who lost their fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters. In our case, it's 2 fathers and 4 young children that are there, that we go out and do this lay the wreath. We're in military uniforms at this preparatory school, the 4th through 12th grade. But what makes it really special today for us is the fact that New Day stepped forward. Rob Posner stepped forward and said, I want to help these families, and I know that you charge a tuition to go there. It's like a charter school. And I want to relieve their parents, their mother or their father, whomever is raising them, of all financial burden to attend that school. And we've been just enormously blessed, and that he's now been doing that. His company has, New Day has, and it makes an enormous difference on those families when there are other Americans who recognize that the sacrifice is enduring. It's not a one-time sacrifice. It's a life commitment that somebody made to our nation for others. And the fact that New Day has done that is making a remarkable difference in our little community there in Milledgeville, Georgia. At that ceremony, I'll share, we just started a 4th and 5th grade this year. We added on to this preparatory school we have, and it's all day students, about 700. And I was chatting with some of the 4th graders last week, and I asked them, I said, what's the one thing you've really enjoyed so far being a part of this preparatory school? This little 4th grade gal raises her hand. She goes, I learned what it means to do something for somebody else and give your life. I've never been taught that before. And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, that 9/11 thing that you all did. She said, when we came out there and listened to the stories and heard of people doing something for somebody else by giving their life, we realized that there are some great Americans around here. And this is coming out of the mouth of a 4th grader. And so I think we all, as a nation, need to constantly remind ourselves just how blessed we are by having men and women, who will serve their nation like they have, and to therefore remember their families continuously thereafter. But anyway.
Thank you, General. Well, I visited the college and met the general last year, I guess it was, not all that long ago, and he was dressed in his full dress uniform, and he's walking through the corridor, and I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. All of the students are going to shrink back, and they're going to be frightened by his presence, but it was just the opposite. And it just struck me that given the proper introduction to people in uniform, being told what the uniform means really does change the attitude of young people, so that they respect people in uniform and they think of them not as some obscure people, but as friends, people who care about them, and they in turn end up caring about people like yourself. Bonnie Carroll, a veteran, founder and president of TAPS, Tragedy Assistance Programs for Survivors, recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is it's a big deal. And Gold Star spouse. Tell us a little bit about TAPS.
Well, in 1992, my husband was killed in an Army plane crash along with 7 other soldiers. And like Becky and her son, my husband was a combat veteran and a recipient of the Bronze Star and the Air Medal. We certainly did not expect that his career would end in that way. So I immediately went looking for the kind of support that I knew had to exist for other types of loss in our society. Immediately became a life member of Gold Star Wives, and worked with the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Department of Defense, to identify any gaps that existed. The support that I found in Gold Star Wives and talking with other organizations was fantastic, but what was most valuable was the peer connection, being with others who truly understood in a very personal way, because they were also walking this journey. Back in the early 90s, there was no organization in partnership with Gold Star Wives, Gold Star Mothers, Society of Military Widows to address some of the nuts and bolts, the casework assistance, the peer-based emotional support and grief counseling, a 24/7 helpline that could be maintained by trained peer mentors, connections to free and unlimited clinical grief counseling if additional support was required. So in 1994, TAPS was launched and immediately was embraced by the Defense Department as a wonderful complement to the other organizations and to what the government could do. Today, General Dempsey, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, is on our board of directors, and he puts it beautifully. He says, the government does a magnificent job of administering benefits and rendering final honors, when a death occurs. We honor all those who have given their lives for this country. But what we can't do in the military is be there for the emotional support, for the additional financial assistance, for the connections to the educational benefits that are offered in the private sector, for that 24/7 resource that is given by peers who truly understand. So, we've had the support since the very early days of every chairman who has directed that families are referred and connected to the support that TAPSCN offers. And it is a family. It's a family of all of us, Gold Star wives, Gold Star mothers, siblings, dads, together on this journey, honoring those who have served and died.
Thank you, and I hope we'll all participate later on in discussing what more we can all do to show that we care and what we can do to energize others, especially people in the halls of Congress and in official Washington, to realize that they do have a lot more to accomplish. Dale Egan is Vice President of the Herschel Woody Williams Foundation, and their memorials are all around the country, honoring those who have given their lives to our country. You've erected many memorials around the country. What purpose do you think they really serve?
That's a good question. I subbed out Dale today. Dale wasn't able to make it, so I'm Chad Graham, president of the Herschel Woody Williams Mellon Foundation. You expected Dale, but you didn't get him. So,
and I'm not really Mort Deane. I am just. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I just didn't want him to think that Dale was this ugly. So no, but I am honored to be here, and that's a great question, and I think the best answer that I can offer is what I've heard from these Gold Star families that are sitting up here and the Gold Star families that are out here, and that's sacrifice and what that monument means. In terms of going into these communities, so many communities, as you started out with, they don't know what a Gold Star family is, and we have a duty, as you said, to everyone in the general public. We need to lead this movement to put that on the forefront. Mm-hmm. And within our communities, every community needs to realize that there are Gold Star families living amongst them, and that the reason they can have the community and the reason that we can live the lives that we have is because somebody else laid down their life for it and paid that ultimate sacrifice. And what our hope is that these monuments act as a way, a gathering place for that, something that can serve as a launch pad for Gold Star mothers, Gold Star wives, Gold Star siblings, Gold Star children, for all those folks to gather, because it is for them, mm-hmm. and it is theirs to use as they see fit. And from the public side, they get an education about what is a Gold Star family and what does that mean, and hopefully that grows, and that we can be a small part of that and be a catalyst for that. And our hope is that each one of these monuments, now that we have 40, by the end of the year we'll have about 50 mm-hmm. that have been established across the United States, that those serve as a starting point. Those monuments are there as a way that we can gather these Gold Star families and also keep it fresh on the community's mind, because as we've all heard, it is so important for us to say every day those loved ones' names who have fallen. And the only way we can keep that in the public eye is to have something that is permanent and something there that's in the public view.
That's good. So whatever your name really is, why did you get involved in this project?
Our family kind of came together in 2010. We're getting ready to celebrate our 5th birthday as an organization. But about 2010, and we're really talking about the influence of my grandfather, Woody Williams, who's the namesake of the foundation. At a young age, when he tried to enter the Marine Corps, he was turned down because they had a height requirement that he did not fit at the time. In that interim between them lowering the height requirement, he was actually delivering Western Union telegrams to families that was notice of death. And my grandfather, that had such a huge impact on him. And I remember from the time I was a little guy, we used to show horses together. And we'd be riding around the countryside, and he would tell me these stories, because it was always something that he taught us. He taught us that leadership is service, and that service above self, there is nothing more righteous on this planet that any of us can do. Mm-hmm. And that was always a part of the fabric of our family. When we started talking about formalizing a foundation, none of us had any idea. We definitely didn't have the funding to start a foundation. We didn't really have that direction. I think divine intervention had a hand in it, and I think the biggest thing is our duty is to do what we're doing. And so for me as a family member, outside of that, a few years back when we really started formalizing the organization, I saw it personally as something of a calling to me. It's part of my personal mission, and it's very important to all of us in the organization. I think we're very, very fortunate that everybody involved shares in that personal commitment to our mission.
Good, thank you. And I know some of you have some questions and some comments, and I hope you all participate. Just raise your hand and we'll be able to hear you. If not, a microphone will be at your side. Rob, you start.
It's an honor for us to be here at New Day USA and be supportive of the Gold Star families. And I guess a question that I would have is what could companies like New Day and the community do more to help more Gold Star families? Because I think that, by the way, General Caldwell, this school that he has at Georgia Military College, it's really an amazing place to raise children. And I think that any child that's a son or daughter of a Gold Star family, it would just be incredible if we could be helping more Gold Star families in terms of, and we're on the phone, the Admiral Tom Lynch, our chairman, and myself are on the phone with many Gold Star families, and you know, we have some understanding of the pain and sacrifice just from our conversations that we have with Gold Star families. And one of the things that we see is that if we can help the children of these Gold Star families be in the right environment for high school, it's not a question of college, because a lot of these Gold Star children never get to college. And if we can give them a boost and a step up in terms of getting them the right education, then Mort, very positive. So what can we do to find more Gold Star families, help more Gold Star children, and what can the community do, not just obviously New Day, to help educate? I think the education is the greatest gift we can give in terms of healing for these Gold Star families. But thank you, Mort.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Boy, thank you so much, Rob. Thank you for everything that New Day does, and thank you for being here. And you're absolutely right. The children of America's fallen heroes have been given federal benefits through the Department of Veterans Affairs, the expanded GI Bill, the Fry Scholarship. There are also state waivers of fees and tuition and private scholarships and programs like yours. It's absolutely essential that we let the families know in an organized way. I work very closely with all of our partner VSOs and military service organizations, and through TAPS, we have an education portal that families can go in, log in, and get a list of everything that they're eligible for. And then we help them work through that so that they can figure out what's the right way to structure their benefits to meet their goals, their educational goals. I appreciate we've worked with you all, and it's good to see you again, sir. It is absolutely essential that we get the benefits and the resources that are available to the families to them. That's one of the goals that TAPS has. So it's at taps.org, the education portal, and we've got to reach every Gold Star family and let them know that there is support available and there are resources for education services. Absolutely essential, so thank you.
I'd like to add to that also. I think that you can also reach out to all the other organizations in addition to TAPS, but Gold Star Wives of America, American Gold Star Mothers, because we do have services that we provide for veterans, and we don't always have the manpower or the way to get all that information out. So we're volunteering in the VA hospitals, and we see needs for the veterans in the hospitals. clothing, maybe newspaper subscriptions, maybe laptops, things like that. We volunteer in the clinics in small communities like where I come from. We go, we sit in the waiting room visiting with veterans, and they'll tell you their story, and they will tell you what they need or what their barriers are that they're trying to overcome to get benefits or just everyday living things that they need. And so we try to help them with the sources they need or the direction to go get those, but sometimes they don't have a strong enough voice, as I was saying, so we sometimes have to go with them personally to do those things. We also volunteer in VA centers where, of course, a veteran is going to come to find out, you know, what benefits he might get or help get his paperwork in order, and we try to steer them that way. But then we work with stand-down homeless veterans. When you go to a stand-down and you see the veterans on the street and the fact they need a haircut, they need a dental exam, and all of those things, there are resources there that we really need to help those veterans. The families of the fallen, sometimes when the initial casualty officer is with the families of a family of the fallen and then they're gone and maybe they don't remain in contact, for me, I know it was 2 years down the road before I really was ready to even talk about an organization where I could volunteer my services. So we need to make sure those families maintain that information and know who to contact. And they don't always do that. They've lost the paperwork, you know, for if they're a wife. They you know, they may have children, and that's what they've had to concentrate on, and yet they need something for themselves, people to talk to. So maybe they need an organization like Gold Star Wives, or a mother needs someone else to talk to that's besides her husband, you know, because they're sharing that grief. So the information about the organizations, the actual physical work that we need to do for our veterans, those things are resources that we really need.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't need a mic, I don't think.
We all need a mic.
I am Mona Gunn. I'm a Gold Star mom. And my son, pre-9/11, one of the sailors that was killed on board the USS Cole. So I appreciate what you've done if you've reported on that bombing. That pre-9/11 families are sometimes left out of many, many things. And my son was not married. He was a single young man who followed Dad's footsteps, went into the Navy. And my husband had a 21-year very successful Navy career, and my son 9 months, and he was gone. And our family was torn apart, you know. I have 3 other sons. My oldest son found a way to deal with his grief. Sharon, who was killed, had 2 younger brothers, twins. And my boys were in college during that time. There's very little out there for siblings and for parents and families when there is a single service member that is killed. Of course, the VA, the Department of Defense, are right there for spouses and for the children of the fallen, but siblings, there was very little. My boys, to this day, were in college and have not finished their degree. Mom's got 2 degrees, Daddy got 2 degrees. So any kind of support that you can give for siblings, I don't know if you're aware of any sibling programs that would provide college support, will be greatly appreciated. I found Gold Star moms that helped me tremendously. My oldest son did some things to keep alive the service of his brother, but my boys, the twins, to this day are still dealing with, and it will be 18 years for us. They were in college. So if you know of any programs out there, if you all know of any programs or any things out there that could support siblings, it's critical.
Thank you. Is there a list or somewhere where people can go who have questions
as a sibling,
like that?
and it's very true because there were not a lot of things out there. And since I've recently gotten more involved into TAPS, I joined what's called a peer mentor program. And that's a program where we do some training, and then they assign you with a peer mentor who's experienced a similar loss. And it's essentially a network of siblings that support each other. We also have routine calls where we have webcasts where we talk and communicate with each other and support and just try to establish that outreach. So I'll say TAPS has done an excellent job in establishing that program, and then also they have other programs within the summertime where they have certain things for siblings, for camps and other activities and outreach things that you can do. And I know also with the Maryland chapter of Gold Star Mothers, I've gotten involved with some of the other siblings there trying to partner and do other outreach things that we can do in honor of our fallen heroes. So that's one thing that I'm really trying to make sure that I try to lean forward on, and trying to get involved with the TAPS program, doing things with the American Gold Star Mothers, and then even things within our community to try to bring more siblings in, because sometimes we do feel like we have been forgotten. But I'm glad to see that programs like TAP and the American Gold Star Mothers are starting to wrap their arms around the siblings and saying, we haven't forgotten you, we love you, and we're here for you. So that's what I'm personally trying to do, and making sure that I make other siblings aware of these programs to support each other.
That's great. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was in Long Beach, California for the annual meeting of the Gold Star Mothers. And one statistic that came out was that there are 22 suicides per day to veterans. I just want Becky Christmas to speak to that, to just share with the audience, what Gold Star Mothers are doing about that.
Thank you, Alton. For the last 2 years, we have had a major focus on military suicide awareness, because this is one of those unspoken, sort of hidden in the back issues that I think we as Americans have overlooked for a long time. And so we started that program last year, and we have done quite a lot to raise money for working dogs for vets especially. And so we've continued that mission this year, and that mission is going to go on, because this is a serious, serious issue. Sometimes it's years after one of our servicemen or women have left the service, and years later they die by suicide. So there are many programs, many things that are out there, but we need to make people aware of those. They need support. And as I said, we have worked with Working Dogs for Vets, which is based in Tennessee, for the last 2 years. They've been quite successful with service dogs for those who have those tendencies, suffer from TBI or PSD. And so we are really focused on this, and we are very serious about this, and we are trying to make every American aware to help with this issue.
Tell me if you've had this experience. I think you probably have had, but in prepping for this documentary and a few other things that I've been working on, I have found that often when you go to a veteran or you make a cold call, somebody you know who has been in the service, and you say, look, I'm working on something, I want to talk to you about your service, it's usually, well, thank you very much, but I'm not interested. I wish you good luck with it. And I found that just saying thank you for your service, which to some people is pejorative now, is not enough. As a good friend of mine who did duty in Vietnam has said to crowds, he said, what we really want to know is that you love us, that you really care about us. Anybody can say thank you, but ask me what's really going on. And it's been amazing to me how many people have responded to that and have said, well, call me back, we'll talk. And we've made a number of friends simply by proving that we care. Does that make sense to you, General?
No, I think it really does. I remember the first time we did the welcome home ceremony for our Vietnam veterans back in 2000. It was right around 13 at Fort Sam Houston, Texas. And it was one of the first in the nation that the veterans, group had started. talking about doing through the Department of Defense, and we signed up and said we'd love to do it. And I can tell you, it wasn't the ceremony itself, it was the aftermath. It was the reception area inside the quadrangle that you saw the emotions just run tremendously high with everybody hugging each other. And young people, young soldiers that were there going up and hugging these veterans and telling them, thank you for what you did during a time when our nation really was not very grateful for your willingness to sacrifice for others. And gosh, it was a moving ceremony. I remember General Kicklighter came out for it, and he was there as he was heading up that group. And it does, if you spend the time to really tell them how much, it's not just we thank you for what you did, but truly we can feel it deep inside, the realization that you were ready to make that sacrifice if it had been required. And you're home now, and we just need to know that we really do appreciate it, appreciate them.
There are some of you who have not raised your hand, so I'm going to just call. There you go. I knew it would work. Go ahead.
Thank you. I lost my son-in-law in 2005, First Lieutenant Charlie Owens, who was an electronic warfare officer in Special Operations Squadron 7 out of Mendenhall, England. And he was killed in a low-level night training mishap in Albania. His oldest son was 5. His youngest son was 6 weeks old. So, but what I wanted to say, on behalf of my family, thank you for all that you do. We have had so much support from TAPS, from Special Operations Warrior Foundation, from Gold Star Teen Adventures, all of these things. And it has meant so much to us and so much to them. And so just want to say thank you.
Yeah, and that sense that you need people never really ends, doesn't it? Don't you find that you're still reaching out to these organizations? Every day, okay. Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Colonel retired Mike Solomons on staff here at the library, also a retired medevac pilot. I want to echo Bob's comments about all that you have done. I have recently got involved in the Travis Manion Foundation out of Pennsylvania. Travis was a Marine who lost his life in Afghanistan. And some of the Gold Star families that are associated with them have reeled me in, if you will, and now I can't get enough of that foundation. So in coincidence, this Sunday morning at dawn, we will gather with about 500 runners and about 100 volunteers, and I will help put on a road race up in Baltimore for that foundation. And we need to see it as another resource of your work in the community, because not only does this foundation bring together Gold Star families, but it also takes young veterans and puts them back out into the community to teach courses on leadership and integrity and courage. And it's their action out in the communities that helps bring those Gold Star parents together and veterans. So I am totally blown away with their work, and I'm honored to be a part of that effort. And part of that is probably a resource to you all, so thank you also.
Thank you, thank you. Anybody else over?
I just was going to say, before we get off that, we have quite a few Gold Star families that work within the Travis Manion Foundation. In fact, we have a family from New Mexico, where I'm from, that work, he's a contractor, he's a builder, and he works with them quite a lot, and I think they're going to New York for something, this build houses. So that's a great organization too, and that's another way to show patriotism to young people for our country and get them involved hands-on to do some positive things to help others. So I'm glad you brought that one up.
I'd like to, go ahead.
Hi, I am Janice Chance, and I'm the proud mother of Captain Jesse Melton III, United States Marine Corps. He served 11 years, and he was killed while supporting combat operations in Afghanistan on 9/9/2008. So this year, 10 years was 10 years for him, and we celebrated his life. But I've been blessed And of course, this is my daughter, Janine Melton, Captain Janine Melton, who I had two serving at the same time, so that was truly a challenge. But I have seen that after the passing of my son, the death of my son, who made that sacrifice. And interesting, on the day that he was killed, he was not scheduled to be on duty, but another Marine asked him to take his place. And he was killed along with First Lieutenant Madrazos, Nick Madrazos, Corpsman Eichmann Strickland, and an Afghan interpreter. And 2 days later, that Marine's baby was born on 9/11, so a lot of good things happened on 9/11. Plus, it's my wedding anniversary, not that year, but that day. But one of the things you were saying, as far as saying just thank you, going beyond the thank yous, is serving as in the Gold Star Mother. We honor through service. And I'm a member of TAPS and the Travis Manion Foundation. I do a lot of work. As a matter of fact, Sunday I'll be speaking at that opening ceremony for that. But it is, when you go to a veteran, I volunteer at the VA medical health care system, Walter Reed, and the Office of the American Red Cross. And so listening to those veteran stories and just going beyond a thank you and doing something constructive. So I encourage people to volunteer, put action behind that. Go up to them and say, what do you need? And begin to serve. Listening to them. You know, I had a Vietnam veteran, one day I came into the office and he said, you know, I've never shared my story about Vietnam. And he said, but I feel today that I can share that with you. And so he did, and that was so special. And the Maryland chapter, we decided to have a challenge coin made specifically for Vietnam veterans, because both of my brothers served in Vietnam, my cousins, and so we had a commemorative challenge coin made. And so we give that to Vietnam veterans. And I was in the airport on my way to the convention, and I had on my T-shirt with Jesse's picture, and this gentleman came up to me and said, thank you. And he said that he was a Vietnam veteran. I said, well, I have something for you. And I reached in my purse, and I gave him that challenge coin. And I said, thank you so very much for your service and sacrifice to our country, because you guys did not receive the hero's welcome that you so richly deserve. And so I honor and I salute you, sir, for your sacrifice and your service. And he had tears in his eyes and began to cry and say, thank you so very much. And that has been repeatedly. I've done that so many times, and just being there for them, and, talking to the POWs in the VA hospital, and I'm the chaplain as well. So I've gotten to know a lot of the veterans. And so I was there one day, and one of the gentlemen that was at Poly High School, he recognized my voice and said, Janice, please come over here. And he said, can you pray with me? And I had the honor of praying with him, and then I heard another voice that said, Janice, I know you too. Can you pray with me afterwards as well? And so it's 3 people in a row. So just doing things. And so it's been an amazing journey to be able to help our veterans. And one of the, thank you, New Day USA. When I first walked into their last year into their building, and I said, you know, I looked around, I said, you know what? This is a new day at USA. You know, this is a new day for USA, because they really present new days for those veterans who have served by helping them to get mortgages for homes. So thank you for giving new days to a lot of families. And I'm hoping that can be extended to Gold Star families as well, moms who would need. That's something that some of the organizations can do. Reach back, we thank you for the veterans, but they're the families, as my daughter says, attached to each fallen hero. If you can do something to help Gold Star mothers and all who are struggling, maybe, you know, single parents who would need mortgages and things like that, helping them do that. But, you know, just reaching out and just sharing and serving within the community really means a lot. You know, it's, you can allow, I always say, allow God to take my pain and turn it to pearls for his glory, to help others. It's therapeutic, and as you water, so shall you be watered. You can't hold things in. You got to let it go, have an open hand, and begin to let it come through you, just like water, serving others. You'll feel better, and when I leave VA hospital, I can sit in my car and say, mission complete. My son said he wanted to go change the world and make a difference and do something that would bring God glory, something that people wouldn't forget. Everywhere he went, he did that. And now he passed the baton to me, and I'm running with it. And so is my daughter and my husband and all the rest of the family. So I thank all of you for being here today to support us, and so we can get the story out about Gold Star. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call up Cadet Caroline Wood. Come on up here for just a sec, who's from the prep school that New Day USA is where New Day USA is helping to fund students. You and I have done this before. I met the Woods and Caroline's mother at the school, at the college, about a year and a half or so ago, and her mother, like all of the parents there, said, "Oh, no, my child is scared. This is not going to work. She hates cameras, she hates microphones." And she came up and was the star of the event. So it's good to see you and your mom. Just tell us what it meant to you to realize that virtually out of the blue, somebody called to say, "We recognize the loss in your family, and we'd like to become friends and help you."
It was an honor because it had been like 12 years after my father had passed, and finally someone remembered him and honored him.
And that relationship has stayed with you, right? When you got that call, you probably thought, well, who are these people? What do they want from us? But it wasn't quite that way, was it?
No, they wanted to give me a scholarship to pay for my whole tuition at GMC.
Well, much deserved, the whole family. And I remember you telling me, I'm sorry to do this to you, but you know, reporters do things like this. They see tears and they say more, but I'm really not like that. But you know, we talked about several things when I was at your college, and one of those things was that you were impressed with the continuation of the relationship. Packages would arrive, yes. And tell us about that.
So New Day gives you a team member, and they'll email you, ask you how your day's been going, how your year's going. They'll remember everything about you, and that's just it's just touching to know that they are remembering you, your father, everything about you, and they send you packages in the mail, just small little things.
Lots of candy, I think you told me.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and Ms. Wood and a number of the other children who have lost their parents, or their parents have become terribly disabled, a number of these young people said to me what Caroline has said, how important the connection with New Day has been, and that it taught them that in their lives, when they grow up, they know that they've got to make a contribution to somebody too. So this is a legacy, what you folks do, that will keep on giving. Thank you. I hope you don't hate me for bringing you up here. And now we have a gentleman, Gary Morrison, who's going to come up. He's a representative of New Day USA, and I'm told you're coming up. Don't you know that? Gary Morrison, ladies and gentlemen. It's all yours.
Karen, would you like us to present now? Sure. I'll ask Admiral Lynch to please stand in front of the podium. Karen, if you would go stand by Admiral Lynch. You know, one of the great things they're doing here, Carrie, could you stand here by Admiral Lynch? One of the great things they're doing here is the Veterans History Project, and I think everybody that's in this room could probably help with it, and it's a terribly important effort. They're basically creating this oral and visual history of service, and all kinds of service, combat service, service in wartime, free time, whenever. Service is service. And they asked us, as part of this agreement that we, in cooperation that we currently have going, to see if we could put together some things. And New Day is very humbled, and we're always humbled with every opportunity we have to connect with people in our community, especially the families of those who serve. Unfortunately, their stories often go untold. That is why I am grateful to the Library of Congress and the Veterans History Project for allowing us to reach out to these individuals and tell these stories, that our community and our nation as a whole will better understand the history of our nation. We may never be able to fully repay our veterans for all that they have done, but this project, the Veterans History Project, is a great way to acknowledge and to genuinely honor these men and women by archiving their firsthand memories with the Library of Congress. Today we have brought with us the first of what will be many interviews that New Day USA will complete. And this is a testimony of service and long service and distinguished service of Rear Admiral Thomas Lynch, our chairman, and we are pleased to turn in this living touchstone over to the Veterans History Project. And I'll let Admiral Lynch do that.
Since I have the floor here, I will take a moment to thank all of you for being here, particularly our panelists, our Gold Star mothers. I've got my classmate here, Charlie Pond, spent 6.5 years as POW in Vietnam. Rob Pozzer has been mentioned, our CEO, our founder and CEO, who had a vision to take what we have, which was 5% of our operating income. We put that into our foundation. And that foundation goes out to help deserving Gold Star families. You saw beautiful Caroline up here a moment ago, the impact that can have. We have, how many do we have at your school now? 13, going to 1,300, we hope, of those who are sons and daughters of deceased or disabled members or who are fighting this global war on terror on our behalf. Those who, as we said before, service before self. That's what it's all about when you wear that uniform. I just wish, as Mort said earlier in the program, that more members of Congress aren't here or their staffs to understand. So they've got to know, and that's one thing I think we can do is be more vocal up on the Hill. Despite all the divisiveness that we have in our country today, I think they can come together for the person in uniform that's making those sacrifices and the family that has gone through so much grief and anguish. So to all of you, I feel very humbled and very proud to be a part of New Day, very humbled in your presence. And we're very thankful that we can participate in this program with the Library of Congress. We congratulate the Library of Congress for making this happen. And we just hope that more and more of us can get out and do more and more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mort.
I'd just like to thank you for the collection, and on behalf of the Library of Congress, present you a New Day with this certificate of appreciation. And the collections will be made available through the Veterans History Project to the American people. So thank you very much.
Thank you all for being here, and I know I got a lot out of this, and I'm sure all of you did too. Thank you very much, and thank you to the Library of Congress and to New Day USA. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.